Typically when you buy a power station, you go out, you buy a 2,000 watt hour power station with a 2,400 watt inverter, or maybe you get a 3,000 watt hour power station with a 3,600 watt inverter, and then you find out you need more power. You see, power stations are typically limited to the expansion batteries that the manufacturers sell. And while some of them can expand pretty far, well above 12 kilowatt hours, when you have one with an expansion battery port, the temptation is to figure out a way to add your own batteries. And I've done that. I've taken a 1,000 watt hour power station and turned it into an 11 kilowatt hour power station, and it worked like a charm. And that makes things a little easier for people if they're looking to pick up a power station, but they don't want to spend all that money on those expansion batteries. Well, in today's video, I'm going to give you a cautionary tale. But before I do want to say this. All of the experiments I do on my channel with trying to hack power stations and get more power out of them than they were designed to have are all done with the intent of educating others on how to do it. But if you do that sort of thing, it is at your own risk. You have to take what I put out for what it is. There's no guarantee that you won't make a mistake when you're doing it and maybe run into some problems. And well, guess what? Today that happened to me. You see, I have an AFRI P280, which allows you to add expansion batteries that they manufacture. And in my testing of that P280, I found that I had the typical voltage you would see from a 51.2 volt LiFePO4 battery or a lithium ferrous phosphate battery. And once I see that I've got a live port that should, in theory, directly connect to the onboard battery of the power station, I should be able to modify their cable and connect up my own battery. So I thought, I'm going to try a slightly different hack today. I set about taking the cable of my AFRI, the expansion battery cable, and cutting it open and getting it prepared to be able to hook up another battery to it. After cutting it open, I went and terminated the ends, and I landed them down on bus bars so that I had another terminal that I could connect up to a golf cart battery and add 5 kilowatts to the unit. Now this would be a great hack. You'd take a unit that with the expansion battery it already had would have been 4,000 watt hours, and I would be adding another 5, taking it up to 9,000 watt hours. Well, that's quite a bit of power. That's definitely going to help you in an outage, and I thought, okay, this is going to work. I've got voltage. Everything looks good. So I set about getting it all set up. Now, I may have made a mistake when doing this, and one of those mistakes was assuming that the big cables were the battery cables. And I did not check that. I should have. And I can't now to see if I was wrong. But there was a big red and a big black cable and 2 smaller black cables, and the 2 smaller cables I had to believe were for communications. The big cables, typically those are used for your battery connections. So it made perfect sense to terminate those so that I could connect them up to another battery. The other thing that I didn't do that I always do, and I preach doing it, and I didn't do it today for some reason, but I didn't check polarity. I made the assumption that red was positive and black was negative, and I can't check it now to find out if that's true or not, though I have emailed AFRI about this, but it should have been positive and negative. All of that should have worked fine. So I connected everything up and I turned on the power station, and guess what? It turned on fine, and I turned on the golf cart battery so that it was now activated as well, and that's when all hell broke loose, folks. I didn't let any smoke out. There were no sparks, except there was one a little bit later. Well, the golf cart battery started to make a loud clicking noise, and I thought, uh-oh, something's wrong, and immediately went and shut it off. Now that didn't stop it from making that clicking noise, but at least I had turned it off. Meanwhile, the AFRI then shut down. And I thought, uh-oh, something is really, really wrong. So I got everything disconnected, and when I disconnected the positive lead from the golf cart battery, it actually sparked. And I thought, well, that was odd. And I thought, well, with everything off, that shouldn't really have happened, so that was a bit strange. I got everything disconnected, and the first thing I did was I checked my golf cart battery to see if there were any alarms on it or anything in the history that would tell me why it was clicking the way it was, and there was nothing. It worked perfectly fine. Everything looked good on it. I saw no reason that it would have shut down or tripped into some kind of an alarm, and there was no alarm showing on the app. So I have no idea what the golf cart battery saw. Then I tried to turn the AFRI back on. Well, It wouldn't turn on. And I thought, uh-oh, I've done something wrong. So I did what I always do when a power station does something like this, is I went and I plugged it into the wall, and it actually cycled up, but then it shut down again. And I could not get it to come back on. The overvolt protection switch had not kicked. There was no smoke, no magic smoke came out. You couldn't smell anything. There were no lights or anything else on it. It was just dead. Now, I have had a power station do that to me before, but after it sat for several hours, I plugged it in and it worked fine. So I'm going to give the AFRI a rest and see if, well, maybe it'll come back to life tomorrow. But at this point, as far as I can tell, I nuked the AFRI. Now, I have some thoughts about it, and I think, number one, the most important thought is that anytime you're doing something like this, if you're not absolutely certain that it would work, well, beware that something could go wrong. I was actually certain that this would work because it's just DC voltage. You plug things in, they all work. As long as your batteries are the same chemistry, the same voltage, everything looks good. And when they're at 100% state of charge, as long as they're within half a volt of each other, you should be able to parallel those batteries without any issue at all. So I had no doubt that what I was doing was going to work. Now, unfortunately, I didn't film it, because the way I had everything set up, I couldn't get my camera into the right position to try to show everything. But I honestly thought, if I get everything to work like I believe it will, once it's all up and running, I'll shut it all back down again, and I'll try to reposition things or get a different camera, set up some cameras so I could show you what I was doing so that you would see. But before that ever happened, I had a dead AFRI power station and nothing was working. Now, assuming everything was right, the only other possibility that I could see is that maybe the communication between the AFRI and the expansion battery didn't like that extra voltage coming in for some reason. Doesn't make any sense to me, but apparently it didn't like it. Didn't like that sudden voltage kick on. Maybe I should have turned the battery on first and then turned everything else on. I'm really not sure. That is how I've done it in the past. I usually turn the battery on first, then the power station on, and everything seems to work. But it certainly didn't in this case. So as of right now, I'm going to say, if you're thinking of doing this with an AFRI P280 or the AFRI P310, probably hold off in doing it because I'm not certain what happened yet, and I've got to get to the bottom of it and find out what went wrong. I'm hopeful that AFRI doesn't come back and just say don't do it because they want to sell you an expansion battery. Come on, these things are things that we're going to do. So at this point, I got a dead AFRI. If you've got AFRIs, don't try it. I've done it successfully on the Opus Mega 1, no problem. I know others that have done it. I've done it on the Pecron E1500 LFP. That worked perfectly fine. I've seen it done on Bluettis and EcoFlows. They work, and I believe even the Anchor Solix, you can do it with that. So lots of power stations you can do these kinds of things with. But as of right now, if you're looking at doing it with an AFRI, I would caution you to probably not try it just yet. You can, of course, plug into the solar input ports and get expansion battery capabilities that way, but the expansion battery won't charge up with the power station when you do that. So you do have to have another means of charging up your expansion batteries if they're not the proprietary ones using proprietary expansion battery ports, or the hacks that I've shown on my channel that work, and I can put those down below. But there you have it, folks, a cautionary tale. This one here, well, probably cost me some repairs on that AFRI P280, no problem. I'm happy to pay for it if that's what has to happen, because frankly, I'm the one that broke it. But I did it for you, so I hope you appreciate that. And I want to take a moment to thank all of my members for supporting the channel, because you guys are great. You give me ideas. I really appreciate it. And frankly, all my viewers that comment on my videos, you guys give me ideas of things to try. I'm willing to do it so you don't break your power station. So thank you for that, and thanks for watching. Meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and throw another video right up here for you to check out. Don't worry, it's not going to be one with me blowing up a power station. Anyway, folks, I got more work to do. You all have a great day. The old Jarhead out.